Blog Talk Radio.
Sorry for the abbreviated intro there, everybody. But Mark and I just decided this was going to be a relatively quick show. This is Damn You Hollywood. I'm Robert Winfrey, and tonight you are going to be privy to the 2017 summer blockbuster season wrap-up, where I try to talk Mark away from drowning his sorrows in alcohol. This wasn't a good season, guys. I can't put it any plainer than that. I thought last year's was bad. This one was just as bad, if not worse. But we're going to get into that in detail about the quality of film, the financials, big winners and losers, the whole nine yards. We're having it all out here. This is your one-stop, quick shop for everything you needed to know about the summer blockbuster season for 2017. Mark, are you doing okay? Because I know this was rough for you. Like, you and I have hinted at this, but genuinely, this was a rough summer season.
Yeah, there were not a lot of great movies this summer. I mean, even on a level of they done blowed up the world, which generally I like. Again, I like stupid summer blockbuster, $200 million budgeted action movies, and this was the year. And your phrase that pays on tonight's show is franchise fatigue. Franchise fatigue, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be saying that a lot. As far as how I'm doing fine. I didn't vomit today, so
yay. That's
good. Yeah, man. I wasn't sick to my stomach at all today. I was able to put down 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As a matter of fact, my spaghetti and sausage dinner wasn't quite as filling as I would have liked it to have been, and I wish I could have had a little bit more. But you know what? I also don't want to tempt fate. So, maybe it's a good thing. We only want to do an hour tonight. We don't want to belabor the points. So I know my talking points are the worldwide grosses, which I have here from Box Office Mojo. Some personally disappointed, not in content. I'm not discussing a lot of content tonight. I mean, it might come up hither and thither, but for the most part, I just want to focus on the money. And there are some personally disappointing returns on some of these films that I would like to discuss in brief. I have the summer movie scorecard from Rotten Tomatoes, which is They rank the movies according to freshness and rottenness. Hint, the most rotten movie of the summer was the Emoji Movie. We'll talk about the remaining 49 movies on the list. And lastly, and this might be a little shock to Robert, but in going along with how there are a few movies that I'm personally disappointed didn't make more money. One of those is Cars 3. I had predicted it was going to make a lot more money than it did. It's currently, as far as worldwide grosses go, the worst performing Pixar movie in history. And I have the list that I'd like to go over with Robert to talk about that. Talk about where Pixar is going, where Pixar has come from, and how, we had was it last year's or the year before? No, it was the year before. We had The Good Dinosaur and Inside Out, and last year we had Finding Nemo, which did, Finding Dory rather, which did phenomenal. And then this year they had Cars 3.
To be fair to Inside Out, that one did like $800 million. It was far from a disappointment.
No, that's my point. It had a stellar year it had a stellar summer with Inside Out. It sort of fell down with The Good Dinosaur, but you figure they can't all be zingers, right? And then it comes back with $1 Billion Baby and Finding Dory, and then this year it shits the bed. Like Pixar's got jazz rhythm right now. That's not good. So those are some of the things that I'll be talking about tonight.
Yeah, that's the basic format we're going to follow here, guys. Movies that, because I didn't talk about this a whole lot. Last week when we talked about The Dark Tower, how personally disappointed I was, and I'm not going to go like in depth here, but I really wanted to focus when I do a movie review, like just set aside my fandom for the sake of as objective as one can reasonably be without becoming completely bland. But there's a few movies that I saw, that I want to set aside because I've done my review, I've done the analysis, and just like as just a fan, as just a human being who paid to see this, how did I feel about it in a couple of movies here? So that's our basic format. Mark, where would you like to get started with this? Do we want to just start with the money?
Let's do the scorecard first. Let's just get that out of the way.
Okay.
So,
yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
And I don't want this to be an hour-long segment, so I'm going to read through these kind of quickly. We'll talk about a few of them. No one's surprise, at number 50, at 8% rotten, is the Emoji Movie. A movie we did not review comes in at 11% rotten, and number 49 is The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature, Not Because I Hate You. I took my daughter to The Nut Job.
This is what you get when you make pandering films that are just beyond stupid. Oh, we can put stupid stuff in front of kids. Well, not always.
I took my daughter to The Nut Job a few years ago when it first came out, but it was more of it was out at the time, and I wanted to get her used to seeing films in theaters because she was like 3. So, but a second time around, that one's going to wait for Netflix. I'm sure my kids will love it. They love the Emoji Movie, but, kids don't have discernible taste. Coming in at number 48 is Transformers: The Last Knight, probably the most hated of the big-time summer blockbusters, and with good reason. Folks, I don't want to get into a whole big thing about this. We've talked it to death. I mean, this one is very close to getting the dead horse sound. So we'll just say, to no one's surprise, 15%, and not to skip all over the place, but not only was it one of the worst-rated movies of the year, it's also not making the kind of money it was supposed to make. Almost $600 million, still not enough to be profitable. All Eyes on Me comes in at 47, which was the true story of Tupac Shakur, came in at 16%. Another one that you actually have heard of, coming in at 16%, number 46 on the list, is The Mummy, which actually is profitable, but not as profitable as it was planned to be, as this was supposed to kickstart the Dark Universe.
Can we talk for just a second about that before we move on here?
Sure.
I mean, it's one thing when you have something like, Transformers or The Mummy and it bombs critically. Because when you're setting up, either entries into a franchise or a tentpole franchise, when your goal is, okay, this is going to make money, you don't really care about what the critics think. You care about the money. And you and I both thought Transformers was relatively review-proof. I remember at the beginning of the year, you and I both kind of threw out, last night's going to hit $1 billion. And it wasn't close. That thing failed miserably. And they positioned The Mummy as one of those same kinds of movies. I maintain this, Tom Cruise is the only actor whose name actually has draw value. He is pretty much the last actual movie star in terms of his name draws interest. And even that has become somewhat debatable recently between this and the Jack Reacher sequel. But you pay Tom Cruise a truckload of money. You try to set up, the definitive, we're really going to get this interconnected universe of Marvel monsters off the ground, and this thing cratered so hard. I thought it looked terrible just from previews, but some of that's my taste in CGI. And then, lo and behold, it's poorly thought out, it's poorly executed. This whole dark universe thing, which I feel dumber just saying it has been a significant blunder on Universal's part. There's some serious egg on their face going forward.
Yeah, this was a big miss for the studio. No, I'm not. They're holding tight to this thing. There's still, as we talked about last week, there's still some titles that are set for release that are currently in production. So, it's happening, as they say, but it's not off to strong footing. At number 45, 17% is The House, which was a comedy with Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler. At 18%, Wish Upon. Last week we reviewed the number 43 movie. At 17%, The Dark Tower. I don't think anything more needs to be said about that. Coming in at number 42, at 19%, Baywatch. This had Dwayne Johnson in it. This had Zac Efron. This might have suffered from having been programmed. I believe it was against Pirates of the Caribbean. It was programmed. I can't remember which one now, but it was programmed against one of the other summer blockbusters. And I think had it had a weekend all to itself, it might have done better. Because I don't think the audience that this thing was intended for would have cared what the reviewers thought. And as far as what the reviewers thought, this was never going to be a highly reviewed movie. However, when you program a cheap comedy remake of a 90s show, not even The Rock can save you when you program it against a big time summer blockbuster. Okay, so yeah, say what you will about Pirates.
Which underperformed in its own right. Can we just mention the other major problem with Baywatch?
Well, hang on. Pirates, okay. I wouldn't call Pirates an underperforming movie. It's still in the 700 million. That's not chump change.
No, if we were when I say underperformed, that's not like some objective standard of, it failed to make its budget. When I say it underperformed, that was relative to expectations. It's not that it failed by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it probably could have been closer to $1 billion, but 700 million is still nothing to sneeze at. It's still, I think, in the top 5 of the year, so I'm not going to condemn the Pirates movie on a financial level. Coming in at number 41, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, at 20%. My kids didn't even see that one. Number 40 is The Book of Henry. I have no idea what this is. Coming in at number 39 at 28%, King Arthur, which, again, may have... I think the studio just misjudged this one. I don't think it was good summer fare. I think this might have been better in a less crowded field when people are more apt to go out and spend some money because they haven't just been to the movies to go see Wonder Woman or something, or I think in the case of this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, or Aliens for that matter. So I think King Arthur: Legends of the Sword suffered from being misplaced on the calendar, but also not being a movie that people were particularly interested in. After a while, again, that fatigue sets in. People don't want to continue to see the same type, not the same type, but the same theme over and over and over again. In this case, the Arthurian legend, even as envisioned by Guy Ritchie. You want to do 50 words of this on this real quick?
I did a whole, I think, solo podcast on this one.
Yes, I was.
Because you had something. Look, I said this when I reviewed it. The big knock on Legend of the Sword is less that this was a movie that was in production and development for a couple of years. There were drastic rewrites and reshoots, and it had been written by several different people. This was a mess conceptually. I maintain, because this thing had a budget of like $200 million is what wound up being spent on it. And when you look at the actual history, it wasn't a smooth production. Like Transformers, $260 million budget. That's what they started with. That's what they wanted, and it all went where it was supposed to go. Legend of the Sword was one of those that they tried, 2 years ago to get this thing up and running. It didn't work out, but they had to pay everyone for their time still. It fell apart. They wound up shooting it. The same type of thing as like John Carter or the Lone Ranger movie, where they just had spent so much money trying to get this thing made, they finally just cobbled something together and threw it out there. And it really does look like it. There's good things about that movie. Again, feel free to listen to me yammer about it for about 90 minutes. It's in the archives here. But that was one that just had there was too much behind-the-scenes baggage for it to ever have a real chance at excelling. And add to that this is another instance, guys, and I freaking hate that studios are thinking this way. But this is another instance of the studio wanting to set up at least like 3 to 4 movies with this same cast in this same world, so on and so forth. And see the Peter Pan discussion from a couple of years ago. That's a really bad way to go about making a movie.
Coming in at number 38 at 29%, Pirates of the Caribbean. We've already talked this one to death, and it's financially successful. I have nothing more to say about this movie. Let's just close the book on it and move on. Speaking of close the book and move on, Snatched, which was a comedy that I don't think anyone saw, with Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn. That came in at 35% and number 37. Coming in at number 36.
When are people going to realize that Amy Schumer is just not that funny?
At 37%.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Your taste in humor is unique to you, and I don't want to bag on anyone for laughing at her. But her style of humor is not terribly conducive to being successful as a film.
Second attempt. Coming in at number 36 at 37%. The latest take on the Taken motif, Kidnap, with Halle Berry. Fantastic. Another one that I don't think anyone saw. At number 35 is Paris Can Wait, Bonjour, Anne, at 45%. At number 34, 45% is Everything, Everything. Number 33, if you haven't heard of most of these, you're not alone. Number 33 at number 49 at 49% is The Glass Castle. Churchill makes it at 32 at 48%. Rough Night, which is a comedy starring Scarlett Johansson, is not having a good year. Kate McKinnon, Jillian Bell, and more. Elania Glazer, Zoe Kravitz, 48% at number 31. One of the biggest bombs of the year for a studio that couldn't take the hit, and I'm curious to see if if SDS is just gonna go under or someone's gonna buy it. Coming in at number 30 at 50% rotten, Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. You've got The Dinner at number. Mistimed. Yeah. The Dinner at 51%, number 29. Number 28 is 47 Meters Down, which is The Shock Tale, at 55%. Those are all your rotten movies, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go with your fresh movies. Certified fresh. Ready? The third most profitable movie of the year so far, at number 27, fucking Despicable Me 3. 61%.
This franchise must haunt your dreams at night.
It really does. I wake up screaming.
This is your old man moment. This is like I'm like this about a lot of things. I want to sit on the metaphorical porch with my shotgun and point it at these terrible things that I don't want to enter into the cultural lexicon. With you, it's just the Minions. Gru and the kids and the Minions come up, and you're like, no, I don't get it. Stop it. Get off my lawn.
I have decided they should only be so successful, and they're 10 times more successful than I think they should be, and therefore I hate them. It's just the way it is.
Welcome to how I feel about 90% of film. I spent years trying to get that same emotion across to you, as far as this is how I feel about crap like various Pirates movies, the Transformers franchise, so on and so forth. And for some reason, it is the Despicable Me franchise that has given you true empathy for my plight as a film goer.
Yeah, it's horrible. Cars 3 comes in at number 26 at 68%. Tied for 68% at number 25 is Annabelle Creation.
Wasn't that good.
At number 24, Certified Fresh, 71%, Alien Covenant. At number 23, Landline.
Alien Covenant, a prover that quality is no guarantor of success.
It's definitely something I want to come back to. Number 22, an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, 76%.
Piss on Al Gore.
There's a shocker. The Little Hours is 76%. Number 21. Let's see here. Moving on to the next page. My Cousin Rachel, 76%. Number 20. All right, and here we move into the top 20. As I said, My Cousin Rachel. Atomic Blonde at 75% fresh, number 19. Beatrice at Dinner, 76%, number 18. The Hero, 78% at number 17. People listening to this going, who fucking saw any of these movies? The Beguiled at 79%, number 16. The fourth most profitable movie this year so far, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at 82%, number 15. Megan Levy, 83%, number 14. Detroit, Rock City, 84%, number 13. Oddly enough, Captain Underpants, one of my son's favorite movies now, the first epic movie, 86% at number 12.
Who thought that baffles my mind. Just legitimately cannot comprehend how they arrived at that conclusion.
Yeah, well, it also didn't make any money, so don't worry about it. That's a franchise that's probably died on the vine. Coming in at number 10. All right, we have hit the top 10. Girls Trip, 88%. Lady Macbeth, 88%. It Comes at Night, 88%. Coming in at number 7.
I wanted to see that.
A Ghost Story, 91%. Coming in at number 6, Spider-Man Homecoming, otherwise known as Thank You, Marvel, Thank you, Marvel. 92%. And
wait.
to
So when we talk about Sony, are we gonna get a chant of you can't make movies?
You fucked up. Here's our top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. At 92%, Wonder Woman. At 93%, War for the Planet of the Apes, which is just barely making any money. At number 3,
that was
Dunkirk.
an advertising issue. I think we talked about that. Just what a failure of marketing went into War for the Planet of the Apes.
At 93%, number 2, 94%, Baby Driver. And the number 1 highest rated movie of the summer is a comedy called The Big Sick. Funny, heartfelt, and intelligent. The Big Sick uses its appealing leads and cross-cultural themes to prove the standard rom-com formula still has some fresh angles left to explore. Based on the real-life courtship between Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon, The Big Sick tells the story of blah, blah, yakety schmackety, starring Kumail Nanjiani, Zoe Kazan, Holly Hunter, and Ray Romano, directed by Michael Showalter. So there you have it. Nobody saw The Big Sick or Baby Driver, but
Baby Driver did okay.
But I'm going to say the number 1 movie of the summer, as far as ratings go, as far as reviews go, is Dunkirk. Of the movies people actually saw in fairly large groups. So Dunkirk,
I'd have to
War for the
double-check
Planet of
Baby
the Apes,
Driver's
and Wonder
financials,
Woman.
but Baby Driver did okay. I'd agree with you about Dunkirk being the best, though.
So there you have it, folks. That's the scorecard for the summer. Sticking with lists, we have our top 10. Now we're going to talk about the money. It's our whole reason why we do this show. We don't need the same. Let's just keep going here. I don't want to waste time. 2017 worldwide grosses. It's still Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast is the Ric Flair of fucking movies this year. It is holding on to best. Oh, come on. It was easy, enough to link Ric Flair to holding on to titles for long periods of time. Do we really have to do a Ric Flair is dying thing? Jesus, what's wrong with you?
Well, yeah.
Boo, Robert Winfrey. Boo.
I mean, come on. He is. Don't boo at me. You're the one who made the reference.
Gavin, yes, because Ric Flair didn't hold on to titles for a really long time. Ric Flair wasn't champion for long stretches of time.
You're from New York, and you're really not going to go with Hulk Hogan or Bruno Sammartino for your long, lengthy reign? Come on, man.
Fine. The Hulk Hogan of 2017 releases is Beauty and the Beast. Are you better now? Are we good with this?
It's more accurate.
In second place, the Ric Flair of worldwide releases, The Fate of the Furious. Number 1 and number 2, all year long since March. Coming in at number 3 at almost $1 billion now, 921. We'll see if it actually cracks $1 billion. It certainly got the momentum on its side. Despicable Me 3 coming in now.
When
Guardians
it cracks
of the Galaxy,
$1 billion, if that thing cracks $1 billion, and you and I both know it very well might, I want you to throw a party, a Minions themed party for the Illumination Studios and their massive runaway success.
Melissa, come here for a second. Come here. Come here. You need to talk into the microphone here.
But I'm okay. What's up?
Nobody cares that you're on cold medicine. Listen to me now.
Yep.
All right. So Robert and I have had a discussion, and if Despicable Me 3, which you currently see where it's at, so this is going to happen more than likely.
Yeah, it's going to hit $1 billion.
It's going to hit $1 billion. If and when it does hit $1 billion, one of our kids' parties next year has to be Minions themed.
Your son would love that.
Okay. So all right. So there you have it, folks. If and when Despicable Me 3 cracks $1 billion, my son's 4th birthday will be Minions themed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I wasn't doing a bit. I just wanted to check. Well, it would have been a bit if you would argue. You thought, you know what? All Southerners are racist and said slavery.
I'm walking away now.
I wasn't trying to pick a fight with you. Don't make me start one. That's a little bit from our dinner tonight with my father.
Oh, that must have been enjoyable.
Oh, you could have cut the tension with a chainsaw. Anyway,
okay. Since that got brought up, just very briefly, here's what I want for our society. I want every neo-Nazi scumbag son of a bitch and every hyper-leftist, we must deface things and cause violence son of a bitch, dropped on an island together. And I want them to kill each other. And then I want the island to be nuked from orbit. And our society will be a better place.
Just to be certain?
Yes.
Okay. Can we move on?
I am a salt the earth kind of guy.
Okay. I don't care about this subject to the point where I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I care about it on I wish people didn't get hurt level and racism is bad level.
I wish people weren't such giant bags of shit.
Agreed. Can we go back to talking about movies
now?
Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy is currently finished its run in theaters from what I can tell. I mean, it's available on demand, so I would assume so, which means it petered out at $862 million. It's currently holding at number 4. It'll go down because Star Wars will end up being the number 1 movie of the year. Wonder Woman.
Maybe.
See what I just said about Guardians of the Galaxy. It's currently sitting at $797 million. If it's still out in theaters, it maybe crosses the 800 million mark, but that's as far as it's going. Pirates of the Caribbean is at 786 million. Spider-Man: Homecoming, otherwise known as Thank You Marvel, 702. This one surprised me because this one just snuck into the top 10. It's yet another foreign movie. It's called Wolf Warrior 2, and it's currently holding at number 8 with 682 million. I know nothing about this movie. Logan got dropped to number 9, and Transformers rounds us out at number 10. 11 through 20 goes Kong Skull Island, The Boss Baby, The Mummy, 50 Shades Darker, Dunkirk, Your Name, Triple X, Return of Xander Cage, The Great Wall, and rounding out the top 20 is the barely profitable War for the Planet of the Apes. The two movies I'm a little disappointed didn't make money. I don't, we don't need to get into content. We did that when we reviewed these things, but Cars 3 on I got to find out what the budget is, probably $150 million, but Cars 3 has only made $300 million. It's the worst performing Pixar movie in history. I mean, that's behind The Good Dinosaur, which was a serious financial flop for Pixar. It was one of the big flops of that year. Cars 3...
the budget for Cars 3 was $175 million.
Right, I should have been looking at the whole chart. Which was around about what The Good Dinosaur was. Good Dinosaur hovers between 175 and 200 million. And they're looking
Wait a minute. Hang on. The Good Dinosaur, and you and I talked about this when we reviewed it, was one of those Pixar movies that struggled because it got redone a couple of times in pre-production, or how do I hear it phrased? I forget, my apologies. I'm blanking on the exact phrase that I liked. But a lot of it struggled because conceptually it wasn't all the way there. It had started as one idea and been mostly written, and they started the process, and then it got changed, and then there were studio shakeups, and its budget was more a byproduct of things in that respect. For some reason, Cars has about the same budget. I mean, I don't know.
You're struggling.
That's weird to me. That's just weird to me.
You're struggling with this inflated budget. That's your issue. Well, in any case, it doesn't matter.
Not that it would have mattered, mind you, but yeah, it just surprises me is all.
If we're using 2 times the budget as a marker profitability, which I know, us and the Red Letter Media guys have been over this. we're doing guesstimates here. So as far as easy math and guesstimates go, if it's more than 2 times, with a few exceptions, if it's more than 2 times the budget, it's profitable. This thing isn't even profitable yet. It's currently sitting at $300 million, the worst performing movie worldwide of all the Pixar movies to date. This is behind The Good Dinosaur, which worldwide gross was $332 million, A Bug's Life, which was $363 million, and the original Toy Story, which on a $30 million budget still made $373 million. If you're just for shits and giggles, top 5.
Go ahead, finish your point. I want to come back to the original Toy Story as a point of reference, so go ahead.
Top 5 worldwide grosses for Pixar movies is Toy Story 3, which made over $1 billion, Finding Dory, which made over $1 billion, just less than Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo, which made $866 million, $67 million rather, Inside Out, which made $857 million and earned every bit of that, and it was still beaten by the fucking Minions movie. And lastly, Monsters University, which was not highly rated but still made money, $744.2 million. Those are the top 5. So, I mean, you're talking, at the high end, $1 billion, and at the low end, $300 million. That's not good. Cars 3 is one of the big flops of the year. And I root for Pixar because they put out quality pictures, and Cars 3 was a quality picture. I have when we reviewed it, we didn't really say anything tremendously harsh about it. Maybe it didn't quite tickle your fancy, but I thought it was a solid children's picture. And
it's roughly of the same quality as Despicable Me 3, if we're talking objective film quality.
Well, I mean, in the pantheon of Pixar films, did it have quite the heartstrings being pulled of a Toy Story 3 or a Finding Dory? No. But, I mean, I would say it's Ratatouille, midway fair. The Incredibles, which is one of the more highly regarded Pixar films, only made $633 million, so, there's that. I thought Cars 3 was better than Brave. Thought it was better than Monsters University. Thought it was better than The Good Dinosaur. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there was just franchise fatigue with Cars 3. I don't know if it was one of these deals where I can only take my kid to so many movies and we're going to save it for Spider-Man and Despicable Me. I don't know what went wrong here, but it's back to the drawing board for the guys at Pixar. And I think Cars now, other than maybe making toys, because I'll tell you this, my son, you can't tell my son that Cars is a dead brand. When I took him to Walmart last week and he walked around the store, he must have brought me at least 3 different toys that were just from this line of Cars toys. So if he's any indicator, Cars, as far as toys go, is still a lively and happening brand.
If I might posit as to why Cars 3 wound up with the fate that it did, I think franchise fatigue in general is a thing. I'm a little bit surprised it took until 2017 for it to hit as widespread as it did, but it is in fact a thing. 2, not just franchises in general, but you have a franchise here that, let's be very clear about this, Cars is not beloved. I mean, sure, kids like it, and they like the toys mostly, but this isn't Finding Nemo in terms of cultural impact or Toy Story for significance. I mean, the first one did okay, and people it was okay. That's really the extent of it. Then they follow that up with just like the dirt worst thing ever. Well, nearly. The dirt worst thing Pixar has ever done is Cars 2. I am still of that opinion. Which promptly ruined any goodwill the first one might have given you. I mean, Cars 2 took the general formula of Pixar is that their movies are accessible to children, but are more aimed at adults. It's kind of backwards. From stuff like Despicable Me, which is aimed squarely at children, but designed to be enjoyed by adults as well. Some of Pixar stuff is the other way around. It's like aimed at a more adult audience, but with enough gags and stuff that kids will enjoy it. Cars 2 had none of that. It was Larry the Cable Guy, and a lot of Larry the Cable Guy. Like, slam your head in the door rather than listen to his voice, a lot of Larry the Cable Guy. So you have no goodwill. You have it sandwiched between other kid-friendly releases, and you have franchise fatigue. I mean, this was really, I think the big failing that we all had looking at this before it actually was released, it's more, how did we not see that coming? I mean, we really should have, but such is life. Now, you and I were way off this year as far as our predictors of what movies were going to be really successful. Way
off.
Off.
We were. Yeah, we sucked at predictions this year. All right, I want to talk about one movie in particular, and then I'm going to kind of turn the show over to you and your agenda, because after this I don't have one. Oh, for fuck's sake. Other than Cars 3, the other movie that I was cheerleading, I guess, and disappointed in its financial returns. Again, we've covered anything I had to say about the movie's content was covered in its review, or I didn't review the movie. So there's nothing to speak of in terms of whether or not I was disappointed in its content. So again, I'm disappointed in its financial returns. I'm disappointed in its worldwide take, its worldwide gross. Alien Covenant had a budget of $97 million. It's only made $232. This thing is flop, okay? This is flopsy. This is bullet to the fucking head for Fox. This was a movie that was supposed to kickstart a series of other Alien movies that was exploring the entire backstory of the original Alien movie that came out in the 70s. And much like the Dark Universe franchise, it's off to a rocky-ass start. I mean, yeah, it made $232 million, so technically it made more, than its budget, but much like the Transformers, it wasn't supposed to just barely cross the line. This was supposed to make upwards of $500 or $600 million. This was supposed to be a big money get for Fox, and it flopped. We've already talked about where it stands. I mean, I think it was still certified fresh, but burly. We talked already about, in our review of Alien Covenant, which many of you listened to, and we thank you for that. It was one of our better received reviews of the year. I just can't believe that after a weekend or two of... Well, first of all, this thing died in America. It only made $74 million here. I mean, that made it, where does that put it? At $74 million, that's right between The Mummy and Captain Underpants. It didn't even make as much money as Power Rangers in this country. What is going on in America that after one weekend of Alien Covenant, everyone just said, to hell with this? Now, maybe it was because, shortly after Alien came out, I think it was something like Guardians, King Arthur, Aliens, and then Pirates of the Caribbean. And that might have been the problem, that there was, the movies were just overstuffed with other things to see at that time. So people just ignored it. But again, I don't think Fox and it was James Cameron not James Cameron. Who directed this?
Ridley Scott
gave the people what they wanted. I think it was more of the same. As my father said, it's the same plot in all of these alien movies, and after a while people get tired of it. And I don't think he's wrong about that. So, I mean, any thoughts on why this underperformed so badly?
This underperformed for, I think, largely the same I don't want to lump these two together in the same way because one, I think, is almost entirely down to elements of marketing, and the other is somewhat that, but also like that hugely misreading your audience. War for the Planet of the Apes, I think successful, but underperformed, especially relative to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was nearly $1 billion movie, if memory serves. And that's marketing. The marketing for War for the Planet of the Apes focused on the action, when it's really not an action movie. A lot of and you and I both got relatively excited for the trailers and such for Alien Covenant because it evoked a lot of the original film. It looked more claustrophobic, more horror-driven. And when everyone got to the theater and instead got another high-concept science fiction origins of life, the nature of, choices and what it is to be real and so on and so forth, they just kind of went, what is this? It's not that Alien Covenant is necessarily a bad movie, but it is a completely different movie from the one that was sold to people. And a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. I mean, I know I have in the past. Like, okay, I expect A and I get Q. And like, wait a minute. And it's very disconcerting, but it's not. But I think that's largely why it failed, because, I mean, A, you have a divisive topic to begin with Ridley Scott's take on, his cinematic take on, ancient aliens. But then you factor in that, no, we're selling this as a return to the Nostromo style of film, and people get something completely different. Yeah, it's going to be rough. This was I think this was, A, Ridley Scott wanting to do something that doesn't necessarily, from a conceptual standpoint, need to be done within the Alien franchise. B, marketing, selling people on something that this wasn't, because while it had some horrific elements, this was absolutely not a horror movie, certainly not the way Alien is, or even an action horror the way Aliens is. And then you throw in that, there were issues. I mean, you and I both, I think, reviewed it positively, but that doesn't stop there from being issues. If this were a cinematic masterpiece, people wouldn't care that they got sold a bill of goods by the marketing department. They would just go see it because it was awesome. And none of those things lined up for this movie. I don't know what else to say about that one.
I'm trying to find a good list of flops this year, like, just pure financial flops, but I'm finding more articles that talk about how this was a shit summer. That if it wasn't a comic book movie, it did shit. Which is a subject in and of itself to talk about. That's kind of all I've got. What do you want to talk about at this point? What's on your mind?
I think generally just. Let me ask you something, because I have my perspective on this. I do want to get yours on this. On the whole, now that we've had the 6-month block that is summer, from a release standpoint, I'm well aware that doesn't actually cover the season. I am just massively disappointed. There were good movies. There were some really good movies. There were some movies that maybe even weren't all that good that were still enjoyable. But, I mean, our top movie, I mean, sure, Beauty and the Beast as a live-action film that was always going to make $1 billion. But it was, Fate of the Furious couldn't dethrone it. It got pretty close to equaling it. But our number 1 and number 2 films do not come from the traditional summer season. I mean, I think what's the highest grossing film from the summer? If we just look at the summer one, hang on.
Oh, Despicable Me.
Yeah, Despicable Me. So Despicable Me and Guardians of the Galaxy are the top 2 from just the summer months. And, I mean, so much that was supposed to do, gangbusters just flopped. I mean, this summer as a whole, as a film, as just a movie goer, I felt it was a significant disappointment. And, I mean, we thought last year was bad. What was the joke that got thrown around? We said after 2016, man, this was a weak summer. This was a summer of weak movies. Not all of them, but generally weaker certainly. And not only that, but then you had the death of legitimate critical analysis, humanity just kind of sucking, and 2017 comes around the corner and is just like, hold my beer. I mean, this. I just want your opinion as just a movie goer of the summer season for 2017, because for me, again, significantly disappointed as a whole by essentially the lot of it. Again, there were good movies, but you had, the best movie was Dunkirk as a prestige film, which is primarily what that is. It's, Nolan's experimentation, and it's wildly successful as cinema as art. And it will be successfully financial. It has already crossed that threshold, I believe. But after that, it was just a rough summer all the way around. So I want your just kind of highs and lows. Maybe it would be a good way to phrase this. Your high points, your low points, and how you feel. Are you in the same spot you were after all the people were just horrible to that actress over Ghostbusters, or are you in a better spot?
Well, I mean, what was this year's big political movie? Fucking Wonder Woman, and that was a positive thing. Like, nobody was on the internet decrying anything about Wonder Woman. There was a couple of little stories here or there, but no, this year there wasn't the big negative. I mean, I think the worst story was the poor kid who plays Flash Thompson got death threats, but you have to be knee deep in movie news to have known about that. That didn't make major news outlets, across the board the way the shit with Ghostbusters did.
It didn't help that Ghostbusters just sucked out loud and Wonder Woman is pretty good.
Yeah, well, there's that. I don't know. If you're asking me how I feel after this summer, look, there were a lot of content disappointments. Never mind the money and all of that. There were definitely, Pirates of the Caribbean should have been better. I mean, if you just go back to the release schedule, Guardians was great. King Arthur was meh. Aliens was meh, basically. Pirates of the Caribbean sucked, and it should have been a lot better. I don't want to get into a big fucking pissing fight with you about Transformers, but if we're being fair and we're really looking at this thing for what it should have been, Transformers should have been better. It should not have been as bad as it was. When we say, or you say, oh, Transformers is bad, it's bad for all the reasons that people like it. if that makes any sense. That's
fair.
This was the wrong kind of bad, okay?
Yeah, completely agreed.
Cars was fine. Despicable Me was fine. There weren't, I go back to, there was one standout hit of the summer that wasn't a prestige film that ended up being better than it had any right to be, and it was truly one of the high points of the summer. There were two of them. One of them wasn't a huge surprise, and the other one was Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. Big surprise. Two comic book movies. Wonder Woman had the stink of Warner Brothers DC on it, so everyone just thought it was going to be terrible. And in going into it, there were rumors that the project was a mess and all this other stuff. So whether you were cheerleading it or not, I think Wonder Woman was the high point of the summer, and that came the weekend of June 2nd, which meant there was a whole other rest of the summer to get through where there weren't a tremendous amount of highlights. There were some great movies, but nothing that rose to the level of, wow, that's why I go to the movies. It was just another weekend. Spider-Man just had a whole story going into it. The Sony hack, the Spider-Man reboot, Marvel taking over. What's next for Spider-Man after his debut in Civil War? So there was a lot. The Spider-Man mystique in general. So. And it was generally a fun picture. Not a whole lot of problems with Spider-Man. That one was another that was better than it had any right to be. But can you think of another movie this summer where you walked out of it going, yes, this is why I go to the movies? No, there was only two times that happened, and both of them were comic book movies. I didn't even get that coming out of Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was great, but it wasn't one of those. It didn't leave me with this feeling of, this is why we have movie theaters. This is why watching it at home isn't adequate enough. I could have just as easily watched Guardians of the Galaxy on my big screen TV, and I would have had the same feeling of enjoyment that I had watching it in the theater. So, yeah, I would say overall I was disappointed with the content of movies as much as I was and how much they made.
Since you brought it up, we're starting this in June, right? That is our... Or do we want to count May? No, we count May. We count May. Okay.
No, May. We start with Guardians of the Galaxy, which is the beginning of May.
Okay. Well, since you brought it up, now I got to think about it while I go through this list. Did I see anything that really kind of made me... let's see. It's rough in some respects because the movies, I review with you most of the time, are not films that generally appeal to me as just a fan of, let's go to the movies. Okay, let's see X. The only thing I can get out of this is I think Dunkirk is one of those that maybe really needs to be seen on big screen at least once to appreciate it. But other than that, I was profoundly underwhelmed as a whole, despite there being some good movies that came out.
Let's just go through the calendar really, really quick, and then let's bring this to a close because we are just about an hour, and I wanted to do a hard hour and get out of here. Guardians of the Galaxy was May 5th, and we liked it, but, was it a wow experience? No. King Arthur, meh. Stop me if you disagree. Alien Covenant, meh. Pirates of the Caribbean, less than meh. So that was May. So one great movie, but not an earth-shattering experience, and then three meh. Okay, then we had Wonder Woman and Captain Underpants. And Wonder Woman was great. It was one of the best movies of the summer. Then there was The Mummy, which we didn't even see. Then there was Cars 3, which was fine. It was adequate. In other words, that rhyme with adequate. Transformers, which we both hated. Despicable Me 3 was fine. And that brings us to July. Spider-Man Homecoming was great, but not an earth-shattering experience. War for the Planet of the Apes was a fucking think piece. Not exactly what I was, not exactly the bill of goods I was sold. We talked about Dunkirk. Dunkirk was a prestige film. And by the way, that was up against Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which may be this year's frickin' John Carter. Atomic Blonde was fine. The Emoji Movie was, if you were over the age of 6, you probably didn't enjoy it.
4. You're insulting a lot of 5- and 6-year-olds out there.
And The Dark Tower was not great. And we're done now. That's it. So that's not a lot of positive words in that list of movies I just went through.
No, it was pretty rough, all things considered. A lot of the actually good movies from this summer were smaller releases. I mean, I've not heard a bad thing about Baby Driver. I haven't gotten around to seeing it myself yet, but I have a lot of faith in that you're right.
Mm-hmm. All right, any final words, any last thoughts, any burning desires?
I am so deeply grateful that so many people finally started coming around on how awful Transformers is.
Okay, you're like a dog with a.
I'm not trying to poke at you here. I'm genuinely not, but I am.
Sure you're not.
No, seriously, because with Age of Extinction we had our debate, but with that one, as much as I thought it was terrible, I understood when people enjoyed it. I mean, again, you and I going back and forth was a representation of our perspectives, but I can understand why people enjoyed it. I understand why you enjoyed it. I understand why other people enjoyed it. I know why it made $1 billion.
All right, let's go through the rest of the year's movies, not counting the Inhumans, because that's just that's a special event. So, forgetting about the Inhumans, starting with it on September 8th. Let's go through the list of movies we're gonna review for this year, and you just want to go makes money, doesn't make money. How do you want to quickly rate these? How do you want to make predictions on these?
Okay. One makes let's do financially successful or not, and level of enthusiasm.
I was gonna say, will it be good? So will it be good?
And your enthusiasm can be tied to quality if you'd like.
Okay. I think it makes money, which means it makes more than twice its budget. I don't think it makes $1 billion, but I think it does. It does fine. I think it's going to be scary as shit, and I'm going to hate everyone for getting me involved in this movie.
Financially successful, $500 to $600 million range, probably somewhere in there.
Okay.
And I am
Blade Runner.
Psyched. I am so psyched for it.
Okay. Blade Runner 2, I have no enthusiasm for, but then again, I never saw the original Blade Runner, which I'm going to do for On Trial, so maybe after I actually watch Blade Runner, I'll be more enthusiastic.
This is actually an important question about Blade Runner. Which version are you putting on trial?
Whatever version I can find on television. So, yeah.
That'll be an interesting experience. Well, some places actually air the original, which is a very different. Books have been written about the differences between the theatrical original studio cut of this movie and what Ridley Scott wanted to release and subsequently did with, again, some of the different versions that got released on various, platforms.
Great, Sean and I have to have a discussion. I think this thing flops, but I think content-wise it'll be fine.
I think it ekes by financially, unless it's legit. This is one of those movies that I feel is tied to quality. If this is a great movie, I think it'll do better. but I don't think we're going to see it crack the top 10. But content-wise, I'm looking forward to it.
I just don't have a lot of hope for yet another movie that's a sequel to a movie that's decades old. I just don't.
That's fair.
On the other hand, Geostorm is going to be awesome. I think it does okay financially, and I am super excited.
I would rather not see it, and it fails.
Okay. Saw Legacy or Jigsaw, whatever they're calling this thing now. No enthusiasm for it, but then again, I don't like horror movies. I think it does financially fine, and I think if you like horror movies and you like this sort of fare, it ends up being okay.
I have very little hope for this movie not sucking out loud. I think the Saw franchise should have been put to bed after number 3. That's when they became creatively bankrupt. Feel free to listen to Sean and I talk about those on the 2-parter of Long Road to Ruin. For those of you who want, if you want more, as a horror fan, if you want more detailed look into that franchise, look it up. It's in the archive. Sean and I talk about the Saw franchise. I have no enthusiasm because, again, I have no faith in this movie not being terrible. Financially, these movies are made for less than $40 million. They are financially successful because of proper budgeting and proper releasing. It is financially successful, but hardly a player.
Thor Ragnarok, super excited. I think it definitely cracks the top 10. It's Marvel, come on. How far it gets into the top 10, that's a rough thing to guess at this point. I think it does between 5 and 600 million. And I think it's going to be awesome.
I have no enthusiasm for this movie. The trailers and everything they have done to market it have absolutely killed my desire to see it. If you want to make another Guardians of the Galaxy movie, just make another Guardians of the Galaxy movie. No enthusiasm. Financially, low end of the top 10 probably. Somewhere for almost certain, somewhere between 8 and 15.
Okay. Justice League, moderate enthusiasm. Moderate enthusiasm, mostly out of curiosity at this point. I think it's going to suck dick, and it's probably going to make around $800 million.
No enthusiasm. Just straight up none. I don't care that Wonder Woman didn't suck. I care that Batman v Superman was just awful. I think no enthusiasm, probably not going to be very good. But Batman v Superman wasn't very good and made a lot of money. So this is probably going to be financially successful. Of course, Batman v Superman was also a disappointment financially because it made less than $1 billion.
Yeah.
Weren't there discussions that thing had to make $1 billion to be successful, given the amount of money they spent advertising it?
Well, I'm sure so does Justice League. They've only been advertising this thing all year. Coco.
And
no
reshooting
enthusiasm. Coco, no enthusiasm. It's Pixar, so it probably does moderately well, and it's probably going to be fine.
Moderate enthusiasm just because it's Pixar. Content and quality, Pixar has only made one bad movie, and that's Cars 2. Even the lesser films in their pantheon are not like bad movies. And financially, I'm sure it'll be successful. Probably outside the top 10, though.
All right, so there's this movie called The Last Jedi. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a little indie film. It's probably going to flop. No, just kidding. Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi makes $2 billion. Couldn't be more excited for it. It's going to rock hard.
Moderate enthusiasm, like low moderate. As for money, let me start with this. As for quality, I am cautiously optimistic, mostly because of some of the players involved. As for money, I'm not with Mark saying $2 billion, but this is one of your top 3 movies at the end of the year, pretty much beyond a shadow of a doubt.
The Force Awakens made $2 billion. I don't see why this doesn't.
The Force Awakens was a remake.
Let me explain.
This
something
isn't.
To you. It's Star Wars. No, let me explain something to you. It's Star Wars, and more kids have become of age. More kids have become of age in the last 2 years, so that they too now can see the movies, including my daughter and my friend's daughter. So yes, it makes $2 billion easy.
All right. I said my piece.
All right, we'll see what happens in 2019 when this thing stops making money. Sorry, 2018. I meant to say 2018. I wasn't trying to be sarcastic. It's coming out late in the year, so its run will be in early 2018. All right, everyone understand? Let's move on. Lastly, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle.
Ugh.
Minimal enthusiasm just to see how bad this thing is going to be. It flops and it sucks.
0 negative enthusiasm. Look, I would rather review XXX: The Return of Xander Cage than either this or Geostorm. Be perfectly honest with you.
Okay. All right.
So negative enthusiasm. It's got Kevin Hart in it, therefore it sucks. And flops.
Yeah, flops hard. All right, folks, that's our summer wrap-up. We will be back for the Inhumans more than likely, but we'll definitely be back for it. And we just went through all the movies that we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. So a little bit of a break. However, we're not going away completely. We'll be looking at – Robert and I are going to come back next week, and it'll just be a different show, but, same style, same Mark and Robert you've come to love. So we're not really taking a break. We're just not going to the movies anytime soon. We'll be looking at the Netflix Defenders, which drops this Friday. That's it for now. That's all I'm going to plug. Go ahead and take us out.
Yeah, that'll be – talking about the Defenders is going to be interesting. I'm not sure – I mean, the Netflix series have yet to really be bad, but there have been enough significant stumbles in places that I'm a little bit leery, actually. Cautiously optimistic about it. So, yeah, we'll have that. I have to see if I can find a theater within a reasonable drive time that will actually be showing the Inhumans crap. And not a joke. Have you not seen some of the stuff that's been said about this?
Yeah, it's getting poor reviews, I've seen.
So I'll be looking. I mean, I get to go on a theater hunt. Yay.
All right.
I'm going to be honest. If I have to drive more than 30 minutes, I'm not doing it. I think that's unreasonable.
I hear you. Anything else? You want to plug your MMA show?
There's no show until, like, the end of the month.
Okay. Pat was like, you guys were doing a precursor to, I mean, it's not that it's this weekend or anything, but I believe next weekend, a week from Saturday, is the McGregor thing, and you guys were going to do a whole show about that. So, whatever. All right.
Yeah, hang on. Let me pull up my calendar here. Hang on. Yeah, the 20th. I got to talk with Pat specifically because he's the boxing guy, and this is a boxing event. But if he and I are both willing and able, come Sunday evening on the 20th, he and I will preview McGregor. What the hell? I hate this event so much. Like this is the antithesis of what I enjoy in life. But we will actually sit down and no jokes, no gags, just shouldn't take more than about 30 minutes. We'll actually preview Mayweather versus McGregor. The 26th, I will probably be covering said event. God help us all. And then the 27th, we will, that is, again, Sunday the 27th, the 411 Ground and Pound radio show will be back on schedule. We will probably review Mayweather-McGregor because, hey, free clicks. Morons will be looking for that. We will also preview UFC Fight Night 115? 115, yeah. The UFC's, I think it's their debut in the Netherlands. It's very close to that. No, they've been to the Netherlands before. I'm confusing different countries. They've been to the Netherlands before. It's Denmark they haven't been to. So we'll be previewing that event. So tune in for that. Should be, something. It'll be something. That's all I can promise. And then Mark and I, we have the Defenders. I think we're doing a review, a very, very late TV party on season 1 of Hannibal, which is fine because I get to nerd out about it because I love that show.
All right, let me clue you in here. Here's the deal. We've got here's the Tuesday schedule from now to the end of the year. The Defenders is next week. Game of Thrones with Pat, I believe, is the 29th. It's definitely Game of Thrones. I believe the believe part is whether not Pat was doing anything. We're either doing the Inhumans or we're not on September 5th. The 12th is It. The 19th is Ozark with Jesse Starcher. 26th is Fuller House Season 3 with Pat Mullen. Hannibal is October 3rd, and that's Season 1. Blade Runner 2049 is October 10th. Voltron Season 4 is October 17th. Geostorm is October 24th. Jigsaw is on Halloween. Yay for not sleeping. Thor Ragnarok is November 7th. Black Mirror Season 3 with Jesse is November 14th. Justice League is November 21st. Coco is the 28th. The Crown Season 1 with Andrew Graham and possibly his lovely wife, December 5th. Right now there's nothing December 12th, but I'm sure there may continue to be nothing because I have friends coming into town that week, so I just may not do a show that week at all. And then Star Wars is the 19th, and Jumanji is the 26th. And then normally we take a break, but I don't think there's going to be time. So if we're doing a year-end wrap-up, it's going to be January 2nd, or we may skip a week and do it on the 9th. But that's it till the end of the year. I'm not working on the 2018 schedule right this minute.
Wow. January's pretty weak.
Well, we're not doing any movies in January. We don't start reviewing movies until February 20th, and we start in earnest with Black Panther.
Yeah, that does come out the 20th. Okay. March. Oh, the Tomb Raider movie's coming out in March.
I've already got the schedule. March is a wrinkle in Time on the 13th. On the 20th is Tomb Raider. On the 27th is Pacific Rim Uprising. On the 3rd of April is Ready Player One. On the 17th of April is The New Mutants. On the 24th is Rampage.
Wait, why are we doing New Mutants?
Why are we doing New Mutants?
Yeah.
Are you being serious?
Yes, I do not understand why this falls within our purview.
The New Mutants is a Fox X-Men film.
Oh. Okay, then.
May 8th is The Avengers. And currently there's a 2-week gap where there's literally nothing. And then there's the Han Solo movie on the 29th of May. Deadpool is June 5th. Ocean's 8 is June 12th.
Oh,
The Incredibles 2 is the 19th of June. Jurassic World 2 is the 26th. Then we miss a week. Ant-Man and the Wasp is July 10th. Skyscrapers, July 17th. Alita, Bata Angel is the 24th. Mission Impossible 6 is the 31st.
Hang on. Why is that on the list?
Why is what?
Battle Angel or whatever.
There was nothing else, and it looked like a big science fiction film.
All right.
Predator is August 7th. Scarface is August 14th. And Barbie got moved. Barbie got moved to August 8th release, so we're going to be reviewing it on the 21st, and that might be the last movie of the summer.
Can we just not review that? I mean, there's a 50-50
Nope.
chance it still doesn't get made.
If it doesn't get made, then we don't review it. It's that simple.
Ugh. Man,
I have to take my daughter
not...
to go see Barbie. If I have to take my daughter to go see Barbie, then you have to review it with me. That's the rules.
How does that work? I should not have to suffer because you had kids.
That's exactly why you should have to suffer. We are now 20 minutes past when I wanted to end this podcast.
All right. Yeah. God. 2018 is going to suck.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that movie schedule, I'll be honest with you.
There is nothing that you read off that I am actually interested in.
The Avengers.
Honestly, I'm not all that interested. I mean, I'll see it, I'll probably enjoy it, but, if you told me tomorrow that it wasn't getting released or I couldn't see it, I wouldn't care.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Thank you to everyone for listening, as always. That's all I got. He's Mark.
All right, everybody.
I'm Robert. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for it. That ought to be... That's my revenge movie. That's my revenge movie for this year. So I only get one. Mark gets 8 to torture me with. I get one that I can kind of go, no, you get to suck it up and do this.
That's how this relationship works. It works that way with my wife, too. You know, for every one thing that she makes me suffer through, she has to suffer through 10 of my things. And that's a ratio that works for me. That's a happy marriage.
I'm sure, well, it's half a happy marriage at any rate. All right.
Nope. It's a perfectly happy marriage, 50-50. Be well, be safe, and behave, everybody.
Yep.